Okay, so you often say that the role of the trainer is to create a situation that calls for a needed response. Can you just unpack that a little bit as compared to what, say, the role of a teacher might be in a typical martial art class?
Catch. The guy catches the ball. The difference is, in the martial art class, he'll tell you how to catch the ball. So in other words, well, I'll give somebody something he has to do rather than something he's been told to do in a particular way. So it'd be like going to a swimming pool and all the kids are not jumping in the pool. They're all being stood on the side of the pool and lectured in how it's going to feel like when they're in the water, what the mindset should be, what strokes you've got to be able to perform, and then going through a whole bunch of exercises which are going to support you getting in the pool.
So that's a kind of, like, obviously you would never see that in a real swimming lesson. But if you
would,
but you would in martial arts and self-protection, you would see it.
Yeah.
You would see everyone sitting on the floor listening and the teacher.
Everybody cheers and they're playing with an invisible ball. It goes in the net and there's a goal scored, but there's no goal.
Okay.
So everybody's, it's...
Okay, so this idea of a stimulus, we talked about motor-oriented response in the previous question and how that's dictating to someone how to move. A stimulus-oriented response, when you talk about that, that's what you mean by when you say, I'm going to throw the ball at you and you have to catch it.
Yeah. You don't need to teach a kid how to do that. And effectively, if you try, then you're going to fail. And so you can tweak it. You can more clearly define the experience you want him to have. In other words, that's what I refer to taking the part out of the car, working on the part and putting it back in the car. You can identify the part you want to work on, and you work on it. And then you can put it back in to see if it functions within the overall thing you want it to work within, i.e. the car. But a lot of people want to, I suppose it's because they don't actually, in the martial arts, one, they can't actually define what the fight is, or they avoid the fight lots of times because of the risk involved. So the problem really becomes how do you actually, one, define what this fight is we're going to have to fight, but two, then how do you actually make it safe and put it within training? So that becomes the focus of the training. Anything else now is supplemental to that. Whereas most people, I'll start with that. That's been my thing for 40 years, to work out what that is and how I can do that in such a way that the person can get involved in the situation of it, rather than assuming what he has to do within the situation and practicing that in drills, and avoiding the fight or possibly getting fit or whatever else he's going to do.
So effectively, you're starting with the fight. What's the fight going to require of you, and then working backward?
Yeah.
So try to bring the person closer and closer.
Yeah, because if you can't, unlike music where you might be playing a note and you recognize a note isn't the note you should be playing, and you can correct it, or this collection of notes in this harmony or whatever it might be are not in accord to the music that's written down. There's no such thing written as what a punch is, what a kick is, because a fight isn't that kind of event.
Okay.
So everything, there's no level of something whereby you can achieve perfection. There's no saying this is the punch, this is the kick. You can identify certain concepts of what is a long punch, what the kind of mechanics to support certain actions are going to be, whether it's one that's focusing on mass, velocity, or looking at the kinetic energy. So one is looking for maybe momentum and one is looking for kinetic energy. So you can identify what might be the concept or the
contributing factors
to that, and work within those parameters. But you can't actually identify what is a punch, what is a kick. And you can't take that and now put it in a chaotic event and make it work. It's impossible. Well, it's not quite possible unless you've actually arranged the event so it does work. And that's what happens.
So in other words, that's what happens in competitions and where the strictures of the competition have been arranged to bring out the thing that you've trained.
Yeah, and it will always even when you because you're working in an environment where you don't want to kill the person who's taking part in the training. So it's always going to be there. But to some degree, it's more controlled than others. So there's MMA. That's why I call it a close representation. It isn't the representation, but it's very close.
Of a real fight.
Yeah.
We're just...
Of course there's rules in there, but you can't. You could not have rules in there.
Okay.
So it's the situation.
But
the
even
problem
in,
is that's-
even in MMA, though, I have to note from things that you've told me about different gyms that you've visited and the way that they train there is a lot of training by rote in certain circles where...
Yeah, that's what it's becoming. That's what I'm noticing.
So it's becoming overly structured.
Yeah, very structured.
So the approach that you're talking about, working backward from the fight and the trainer intelligently constructing different scenarios to bring something out of the student rather than dictating to the fighter or student.
Well, what he's got, what he has to do, and you were part of this in a sense, of trying to find a way when you said that when we were sparring, how to find a way. So that's what happens, is that you don't necessarily have the problem yourself, you start recognizing other people have the problem. And it's often assumed within the martial arts that the problem has already been solved, and this is how we do it, and this is how we prepare for a fight. We do this drill, we do that drill. But when we did that work in the backyard that time,
yeah,
and there's certain elements in there which you identified that you couldn't quite come to terms with. So that makes me think, how can I reconstruct what I've already got, add something to it, add another element which will allow you to experience a fight at some level,
right.
without the risk of serious injury.
So when I'm hearing this, what I'm hearing is an approach to training people that's more of a coaching approach than a teaching approach.
I've got nothing to teach. I've just got direction. So I haven't actually got anything absolute to teach because I'm still teaching myself. So that would be hypocrisy for me to suddenly say I've got it. I'm just getting better at doing what I do.
Well, I think the point is that whatever you might have, when you had me in the back garden that time and we were doing those drills, that whatever you may have, you can't impart it to me. I have to have that experience for myself in some way, shape, or form.
And I've got to make sure that experience you get is
a close representation
of all the elements. And I've got to find a way that you can do that realistically and relatively safely.
So really, the way I'm seeing it in your training, what I've observed, and also what you're saying in this conversation, is that the role of a trainer is to create a situation that brings out a needed response. That was the question that I originally asked you. So the role of the trainee, effectively, is to show up and go for it.
Jump in the water.
And go for it.
And it's like when I was working at Courage's, big battle, old Draymond, probably my age then. I was like, so he whips this thing up, up on the still, and there's me, really strong.
Big muscles.
I couldn't shift it. But he just showed me the trick. And I think what you do then, once you've created a way of sparring, you then start introducing concepts or ideas, which are simply tricks, which allow you to do what you want to do better, rather than telling you what to do as a whole. It's just a tip. And it's something which it either fits your personality or fits your physical form or the way you do things, or it doesn't. But it shouldn't be looked on as an absolute direction in which you must go. And that's where a lot of trainers can't let go. They can't let go of their own ego. They can't get past their ego on what they want that person to do. But in actual fact, all you're trying to get it to do is jump in the water, learn how to swim. And
do it for himself or herself
within
as best suits them.
Yeah. So we're back onto that horse analogy I used to use that Thompson say. You look at the ball, you look at him in the box for the confirmation, whether he's going to be suited for what work you want to put him through. But go and look at him in the field running free to actually figure out what his moves are. So you have a starting point when you take that guy out there. You don't train. You don't turn him into like like in dressage. You don't turn him into an animated animal.
You work with what you have.
Work with what you have.